Hello and welcome to this episode of Proven, where we have candid conversations with those individuals that have raised the bar when it comes to success and becoming iconic in their own right in their chosen field of business and or ventures. And today we have another person that has emerged from the ranks. She actually comes out of a corporate sector. She gave it all up to enter into the nonprofit sector, but I'm telling you, she's been blessed where she is. So help me welcome to the show today, Sandra Stanley. Welcome, Sandra. We're so glad to have you today, my love.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness. She is the founder of Opening Doors for Women in Need. And I just kind of want to talk through your journey, if we can, to get to where you are today. Because you have a high level of success today, but you started... maybe let's go back a little bit before corporate. I want to talk about your upbringing a little bit because I think what you experienced growing up prepared you for where you are now.
Oh, yes. See, my mother was a widow. She raised me and my brothers, my two brothers, and my older brother. He was out of the house before we were raised. We were still going to Our Mother Mercy Catholic Church, which was kind of weird because on Catholic school, and then on the weekends we were A&E church, and that was really confusing as a kid with religion. But now it helps me understand different diversities of religion, and so that's kind of how it started there. And then just mother being a strong woman, her upbringing, and she was an entrepreneur. She had real estate, and I kind of got that from her. I really wanted to do that, but she made sure we were in church and we had that upbringing. But when I got younger, you know, I was tired of going to church all the time, so kind of strayed away and doing me and going to college, getting a degree, having children, and then starting my career at the hospitals, and that's kind of what I did. So then I try to realize, you know, this is not right. I'm not doing any kingdom building. I'm not doing anything for God's purpose. And I was just, my heart was broken when I realized I was reading Purpose-Driven Life, and then Bishop Jakes had did a sermon on stirring up your gifts, and it really was impacting. I said, what should I be doing for kingdom building? And then that's when I started searching and started doing the prison ministry out at the prison at the FMC, the federal prison. And the girls kept saying to me, I don't know where I'm going when I leave. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I had a little rental property, and I said, you know, I think I want to do this thing called transitional living. And so I didn't know what I was doing. So I dedicated that house to God, surrendered it over to the nonprofit after setting the nonprofit up. And then I just started to get educated on what it was to start a nonprofit, operate a nonprofit, and then minister to women coming from prison who had addiction issues, because I hadn't done any of that. There wasn't any of my issues. And that's kind of all how it kind of started. And now here we are. Next month it'll be 15 years later.
Wow, congratulations on
that. Thank you.
Well, I want to go back a little bit, if you will, because, you know, making that jump over into something that you didn't quite know what you were doing, you felt that you needed to be part of kingdom building, and you just felt a tug into, which ultimately I think kind of showed up to be your passion to really help others. I mean, here you are, you finished school and you're working this corporate position and you're doing well. And most people would think, you know what, you've got the right job, you know, you're in the right circle, and a lot of people count that as success. And so how difficult was it to make that transition from that corporate sector over into something that you didn't even know what you were stepping into?
Well, people call me stupid. They call me crazy. What are you thinking? But the great thing was those people followed me, and some of them support me now, and they can say, now I will remember when you talked about this. I remember. But I think it was my faith, that crazy kind of faith, that childlike faith, that made me really want to move forward and do this, because I was just crazy about it. I just had to get this done, and I was eager to get it done. And that's what drove I had a driving force to make me get all this just in order.
And what's so incredible about it is that it was that passion to be able to help these women to be able to really start over again. You know, to have success at a second chance. And so you founded Opening Doors for Women in Need, and that's the organization now that is yours, that you found it, that you are fully given to, and you're full time in it 15 years.
Yes.
That's phenomenal.
Yes.
Now, I had the privilege to see what you were doing, and I was most impressed. The first time I can remember coming over and sitting down and talking with you, and I saw the facility, and I was just blown away because you were offering all type of skills training, job training. You had computers on site there. You had volunteers coming in to really help you to run the program and the training. But when I went down the street that you took me down and I began to see the houses that you had purchased and the community gardens, I was just blown away. I thought, this is a woman with a vision. And so you said you took that first little house you started with?
And sold it. That's what, see, I think that as Christians, we forget about sowing, and we can't outbless God. And I gave that house to God, and I haven't missed a beat.
Wow.
As a single woman without a support system, I haven't missed a beat. God has blessed me over and over for the sowing and just giving. And I think that's what we need. I want to just tell other people, just if you have a vision for kingdom building, don't be afraid. Sometimes the fear keeps us from the obedience, the fear. And if you believe in a vision that God's given you, then you got to make it work and just go for it and pray. But you also have to fast and pray. I fast and pray before everything I done.
Everything.
Fast and pray before you start your vision. And God will make provisions for the vision.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, He'll make provisions for the vision.
So how would you direct someone just practically, though? Because I mean, fasting and praying and seeking God and inquiring of Him is really great. But what about the person that said, yeah, I've done a little bit of that, but I just don't feel like maybe I'm practically doing the right things to really get to where I need to be because fear is crippling me. And if I do this, this might happen. And if I leave my job, I tell people all the time, you need to prepare to leave your job.
Yeah,
if you have a greater vision. Put aside some money, make certain that you're able to provide for your family. But at the end of the day, there's so many people that struggle with taking that leap of faith.
Right. Well, I tell people this, 2 things I tell them. Be prepared. When I left my job, I stayed on my job for 7 years after I started the ministry. Okay. And the only reason why I left was because God kind of kicked me out that position. You know how He'll make you feel uncomfortable in a position? And my boss, I just tell him, I'm getting too old for this. My heart is at opening doors. I feel like I'm stealing your time, and I really need to just go and do what God has led me to do. And we had that conversation. She said, Sandra, don't go. Are you crazy? Don't quit your job. I said, no, I have to go. But I had paid off all my bills. I didn't have a car note. I didn't have a house note.
You really prepared.
I really prepared.
You got ready. Yeah.
I did, and so I didn't have any issues. And I tell married couples, make sure that you're equally yoked in your vision, because you can't take the house money for your vision if the spouse is not on alignment with you. So I teach that to people that are couples, because it causes contentions and it just causes issues, and you don't want to cause, God doesn't want that. So when you have a vision, just don't jump out, strong women. If you got a husband at home, you talk to your husband and make sure he's lined up and supporting you in that vision, because we want that family unit to stay intact, and we don't want to cause conflict because you're trying to do God's work. So but I really prepared, and then I had a mentor. I always have a mentor. If you want to do something, see who's doing what you want to do good, and go and talk to them and see if they'll mentor you. So I had a mentor, and he told me, Sandra, don't quit your job in the beginning. Okay. And I was afraid to quit my job. So like I said, when I got pushed out and went on and quit, and God whispered in my ear and said, daughter, if you don't do it now, you'll never do it. So go on and do it. You can do it. You ready? And haven't missed a beat yet. And then a couple was watching me, and they said, we see that you are doing this good work, and we don't like it that you don't get paid. So they donated $100,000.
$100,000. Let's get that straight.
Yeah, $100,000.
They were watching the work that you were doing, and they decided to make that investment in you because you were good ground.
They said the first thing we want you to do is pay yourself. The second thing we want you to do is pay an assistant to help you, and then you tell us what you want to do with the third portion of it. And that's when we purchased that building on the hill with that rest of that money. So see the amazing blessings. I'm just a testimony of faith. I am. I'm writing a book now. It's about faith.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
but because I want people to trust in God, because when you shaky there with it, it's just not going to work. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
And who knew somebody was going to? And then sometimes you might think it's coming one way, and it'll come another way, and God will bless you another way. So don't get discouraged if it didn't happen this way. Because say, okay, let me see how God's going to do this now, and He'll send an angel or some stranger will walk through the door. I tell the people at the office, always prepare for the millionaire coming in the door.
That's right.
To write a check.
Who it might be coming in to see the good work that you're doing.
And that's happened twice.
Well,
a millionaire came in the door.
Look, okay, come on, look, stay focused on that good work. You know, let me tell you something. I love the fact that God provided for you, and that you did what you needed to do to care for you and for the vision that God had placed on the inside of you. That was such wisdom from those individuals that came in, because apparently they recognized that you were making a difference. You know, so many people start works and they're doing things, but they're not really doing a good work. You said something about your mentor that you had attached to. He was doing the work, and it was a good work. You know, so many people just, you know, they really don't do their due diligence when they're looking and researching really the right person to connect to. So would you say that right person that you connected to, that was your mentor, was the person that you knew God had sent you to, because it's helped you to get to where you are today? I mean, apparently he taught you right.
Yes, yes, and then I try to meet with him at least once a year.
Okay.
But I used to go to the networking meetings around the city, and he was always there. And I think he thought I was kind of strange in the beginning, because I would always kind of ease up to him and say hello, introduce myself. And then every time I see him, I was thinking he wouldn't remember me. And I would introduce myself to him, and then finally I got a nerve to say, can you come out and see what I'm doing? I want you to look at my home and see what you think about it, my transitional home. And so he said he never responded for a couple of times. You know, every time I see him, I invite him.
So you were persistent.
I was persistent. And then when he saw what I was doing, he came out and he saw what I was doing. Then that's when he told me, Sandra, don't quit your day job.
Okay.
He said, keep doing what you're doing. He said, many people in ministry, they want to jump out and quit their jobs, and then their home fails.
Right.
Because they don't have sufficient funds to provide for their home. So he said, don't quit your job. And he'll tell that story now. When he's talking, he'll tell people, yeah, Sandra listened. She's one of the few ones that listen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he tells that testimony, because when we start our missions and our ministry, we fund it with our own funds.
Right.
You know that. You do that.
Absolutely. I sure
So
do
we fund it with our own funds, but we don't want to go broke at the house with the lights off
Still
over
gotta
here.
live, still gotta eat.
And the ministry got stuff and you don't have stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that works.
So for 7 years, you stayed on your job with the, advice of your mentor, and you built this ministry. What did that look like for you? Because I know you had a heart to really reach those women that were transitioning out of the prison system into a place where they could really get the instruction that they needed, be in an incredible environment. The first time I went on your tour, I think you had just had opened the home that the Junior League had built for you. And I love that story.
Yes.
They were really waiting on somebody else to build a house, and the Junior League said, look, we're not waiting on them. We're going to go ahead and build this house for you. And you had just gotten it furnished, and I had actually had the opportunity to go in. But it was so excellently done. And I remember you saying to me that when those women come out, you want them to have an experience as though they are special, so that they'll have the drive and the motivation. Now, I would imagine all of that comes through the training that you provide for them. And so is that a part of your program, that you integrate all of that into them so that they really have an improved quality of living? And of course, the goal is that they not go back.
Exactly. Well, we want them, when they walk in that door, we want to tell them, God knew you was coming. So daughter, he prepared this room for you. And they've been in an institutional pod with 8 or 10 women in a pod all together, sleeping together in one pod together on these metal beds. And here you have one bedroom to yourself. That's beautiful when you open the door. And that's empowering the women to say, for me. So
they feel special.
They feel special.
So do you find that they have a greater desire to go through the program and stick it out because of feeling special?
Yes, and then they see the way we operate in excellence. They have to keep the way they have to operate that house. It has to be cleaned every day. It has to be show ready all the time, like a show house all the time. So they continue to do that. So we want them to do that.
Wow, that is so phenomenal. What is maybe one story about a success story that really touches your heart that will always remain with you from one of the women that has come through your program?
I guess Allie is one of my best success stories. I have many, but Allie, she was incarcerated for over 18 years at the federal prison, and she wouldn't mind me sharing this. And she was like a big kid when she came home. And we have to understand when they've been institutionalized that long that they lose a lot. They lose a lot, or they just don't know.
Right.
So when she came home, she was just like a big kid, and she calls me mama. She calls me, some of the girls call me mama. She calls me mama now. So every time I went somewhere, she wanted to go. You know, she wanted to ride. And I'm thinking, I'm not used to that. So I said, you want to go with me? She said, yeah, can we go with you? I said, well, okay. And we just be riding. And she said, the clouds are so beautiful. Wow. Look at that cloud. It looks like this. And I'm going, what? You know, while we driving down the road. So I'm looking. And she made me appreciate things that we take for granted. She
Every
said,
single day.
And I said, what are you talking? She said, Mama, I've been locked up all these years. We ain't got to see the clouds. We haven't been able to see the clouds.
Wow.
And then we went to a church, a more modern church, and she went in the restroom, and she came out. Mama, the toilet, it flushed by itself, you know. And then she said,
wow.
And then the sink,
sink.
I just put my hands under in the water. She couldn't figure it out. And when she finally figured it out, she's in there experimenting in the bathroom. But, you know, the things we appreciate, or just the cell phone or the computers or learning how to do these things, they had missed out on a lot of that. Wow. But she was hungry. She was hungry. She wanted it. So she did everything the way about saving the money. So we want them to buy cash cards, not toast and note.
Oh, come on now.
We don't want them going to sell plasma. We want you to save your money and work hard and work extra.
So they're required to get a job.
They have to get a job. They have to go to church.
Okay.
It's mandatory. Like Mama said, you have to go to church on Sundays.
You in my house, you're going to church.
Exactly. Go to church on Sundays. And Monday night Bible study is our foundation. Okay. We have two wonderful ministers, Joycelyn and Janita. And Janita actually writes the Bible study. Okay. And the ladies seem like they get mostly out of the Bible study than anything. They teaching the word, because 90% of the women that come to us do not know God. They don't know the word. And so they get it at their Bible study. Wow. And it equips them, it gives them the tools to survive in this world. We have to make sure when they're alone and they have grieving issues, or they're by themselves, or the family reconciliation issues are still impacting them, that they got a word. They can say, I remember that scripture Sister Janita taught me. I remember that scripture. Something to just lift them up when they're alone. And I think that works, because the ladies write me or they Facebook me and say, you know, I remember when Sister Joycelyn taught us this, or said this scripture. So that they have to be equipped to be, when they leave us in a year, they leave us. So they have to have a savings, spiritual support, and spiritual tools to help them, and then they have to have their savings at least maybe $2,000, close to $1,000, so they can. And we have them do money orders, because you know, women sometimes we have issues with money or saving money.
With the managing and saving.
Yeah, so we have them do their savings is in a money order to themselves. And I keep it for them. Okay. So that way they know it's their money. They don't think they're giving it to me. Right. And we save it that way. And then when they start, I go with them and we do our little reviews. I say, look at all the money you got saved. And that just empowers them. I've never done this before. Wow. One young lady, we went to Walmart when she got her first check to buy her some personal things. And when she came out, I was waiting on her, and she came out and she was crying. I said, what's wrong? She said, Miss Stanley, that's the first time I went in Walmart and paid for the items I got. I always stole them all these years. Oh. And I go, what? And she said, yeah, it's such a good feeling. And she just wept. And so those kind of stories, when women are upfront and honest with me and share things, are very impacting to me. Yeah. And they just give me the strength to keep doing it.
Oh, well, you've done it well for these years, and you're steadily making an impact. So how many women, I know you serve more than women, but how many women do you see within the prisons per year? do you think that you and your team
we
get an
get so many
opportunity to
letters. We don't always get to go if they're far away. And we go to Carswell, and we go to the VOA. We go to those local places, down to the county if we need to. But some of the other places, since it's travel time, we don't. But we get to communicate through letters.
Okay.
So they write us a letter. If we see some interest in the letter, that God is speaking to us in that letter from them, then we send them a 13-page application.
Okay.
And we know if they take the time to fill out that application, that they have an interest or they might can follow rules. So it's the reason why we have a 13-page application.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we send that. So we do a lot of communicating through mail.
Okay.
Back and forth
Getting
with them.
to know them about
Getting to
them,
know
to see
them.
if they're willing to do the work that you send them. And because I can imagine that a lot of the women coming out probably aren't readily received by their families, especially those that have had
They're tired. The
13,
families
14,
are
15,
tired.
18-year separation. Yeah, and the
They're
family
exhausted.
is worn out. You know, my family is certainly acquainted with that experience, and I have a book entitled, Held Captive 2. And the whole point is that the family does get tired, and sometimes people don't recognize that. But it's not saying that that family member that's incarcerated doesn't need help. It's just that the family is worn out and drained, and so there has to be that reconciliation that occurs in order for them to come back together. So do you see that that happens after they go through your program?
Yeah, actually, when Allie came to me, back to Allie, her and her mother had been estranged because her mother wouldn't answer any of her letters or cards. And then when she got home to us, she wouldn't answer her phone calls because of the things she had done.
Yeah.
She admitted.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I told her, I said, Allie, just stay strong. Your mother is going to see you changing. And once she sees you changing, then she will open up and receive you back as a daughter. So don't give up. You keep doing what you're doing. Keep calling. Keep sending cards. And she had bought a ticket. She wanted to go see her mother. And her mother refused her.
Oh, wow.
And she was so hurt. She came and cried. We talked about it. And then finally I said, don't give up. Don't stop. Keep calling your mother. And finally the mother gave in. They started talking on the phone. And then she wanted her to meet me. So we talked on the phone and I told her about her good works. And so then she got to go see her mother. And her mother, she's talking about me all the time in the program and the people she met in Texas. And then when she went to visit her mother wanted to move here.
Oh, wow.
So we helped her mother move here. And once her mother moved here, she got sick. And Allie was the caretaker. And she passed away shortly after she moved here. But that's just God. And it showed Allie, through her persistence and her changing, gave her opportunity to be with her mother, spend time with her mother, reconciliation.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best example of that. And her mother was so happy when she passed away, and Allie was too. But she passed on Allie's birthday. But Allie, she's okay with that. She said because God gave her all those other days with her mother.
Yeah.
So
and
see,
that's what you have to look at.
all that she learned at Opening Doors for Women in Need about spiritual support and scriptures and standing strong.
Yeah. Oh, that brings me to tears though, because that meant that she really got that moment to have some special time with the woman that birthed her into this world.
Yeah.
And to have that level of restoration is so powerful. And I know that there are many more stories like that. You also started a community garden there in that community. And tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's important that we realize that not only can we help those that are caught up in situations, but as we start to integrate into our communities and make a difference, because you have, about 5 or 6 houses on that block, right? And then you've got that community garden, and it's for the community, right?
Right.
So you're not only just doing the work with Opening Doors for Women in Need, you're reaching out to the community, and you have the other facility that you've got programs and outreaches and opportunity for people to utilize your kitchen and the meeting rooms and the development center there. I mean, you're given to that. But what made you start a garden? I mean, of all things.
Let me tell you about that. Everything has a story. But the garden, some of the, when I first started, some people didn't understand. They didn't like it, that I was doing transitional living in the community. And we had about 3 of them that kind of came against me. and they were just uncomfortable with what I was doing. Didn't understand really. But they never came and talked to me. And so I was really hurt by that, because here I am trying to do a good work, trying to help my community.
Yeah.
And so, like I told you, I sold that house. Well, about 2 years after I sold the house, a Catholic priest gave me a house and a lot.
Oh, wow.
He gave it to me. He didn't give it to Open Doors. He said, I want you to have it, Sandra.
What a blessing.
And do what you need to do with it. So I was so hurt about the neighbors not welcoming me. So God spoke to me and said, if you, he said, a community garden will bring unity in the community. That's exactly how it came.
Wow.
Unity in the community from a community garden. And so I started reaching out, talking to some people that had done it, and my friends with Project 44, that's what they do, gardening. They came and helped me, and Tarrant County Food Bank with their gardening program, they helped me. And so, and I did do a survey in our community to see, do you want this? So, but it's really, the laborers are few with the garden. Yeah. They want the vegetables, but nobody wants to work. Yeah, it was some
good vegetables. I saw some real healthy vegetables. Yeah. Anytime I've ever been over there, it's always been producing. And you know, I think the thing of it is that it's so amazing. And because now, with the acceptance of your program in the community, you're a viable force to be reckoned with. And so it's amazing how you could take something as simple as a garden and use that to kind of bring that unity in the community.
Yes.
I'm telling you. Well, you know what? We could go on and on. Our time is running short, but I'm telling you, Sandra, continue the great work that you're doing. And thank you for sharing those stories with us, because I think so often people want to do good, but they don't know how to do good. And so I heard you say that you just have to start where you are. You have to prepare, get the right people around you, that you have to get ready for what that is, and then just step out in faith and trust that God will provide.
He will provide.
He will provide. So there you have it again, from another person who's proven, iconic in her own right. You've heard her journey. It's so much more that you should know about her. So follow her at the information here on the screen. But I tell you, listen to the principles that she's given today. She's given you some wisdom and some insight so that you can be proven too. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.